Hey everybody, it's Aiden Paladin, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie that I saw recently with my very good friend, who is going to introduce himself now.
Hey, it's Brean from the Toy Channel. Usually I'm with Brianna, my girlfriend, but it's just me today. We're reviewing a movie we just saw, and that movie is Get Out. And
Yep.
we had some thoughts on it. I guess we're going to go back and forth and see what we thought about it.
Right. So what is your channel mostly about, by the way? Just for my audience.
It's basically just stuff that I make with Brianna. It's funny stuff. It's weird stuff. We've made a couple short movies, and right now I'm kind of in between jobs and things like that and starting up my own business, so I don't have a lot of creative time. So what I do end up doing is rip up subscription boxes and just open those up and show people what's inside, because I've been subscribing to those for a few years. So that's our main video right now. It's nothing fancy, but I mean, we give it a good try and put our best efforts forth. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you like horror, I've seen over 500 horror movies in the last few years, and I've seen over 1,950 movies. Actually 51, because Get Out was number 1,951. I've been counting since 2007. So I've seen quite a few movies, quite a few horror movies, and I'm kind of a aficionado on that subject.
Right. As am I, and that's why I'm talking to you about this, because I know you know horror. So there's a political aspect of this film that's very obvious, but I want to set that aside.
I'm fine with that too. I went into it, blind. I didn't read any reviews or anything. I heard inklings of things, and I saw like maybe 2 seconds of a trailer. I don't have television, so I don't get to watch TV trailers unless I go, looking for them. So I went into this not expecting anything. I heard it was good. Brianna, my girlfriend, said it was good from what she had read on the internet, so I was like, fine, I'll go watch it. I like Key and Peele. I like their Keanu movie.
Yeah, me too.
So that was
They're hilarious.
Yeah, that was our first movie that me and Brianna had seen, and we went to
that's nice.
Atlanta, and we liked it. So it's like, this is our second Peele movie or whatever. We want to see what he's doing here. So yeah, I understand there's some
definitely very different
stuff.
And I wrote an entire video when I first saw the trailer for this, and I said, this is race baiting. This is fucked up. I don't approve. But then I saw it was Jordan Peele, and I was like, well, fuck. He's really funny. He's really creative. And they make fun of race all the time. So I thought, there's no way. It's got to be more complex than that. And I think it was. I think there's a lot we could talk about. But yeah, I think it definitely, I think it probably up front that this movie was satire or satirizing. It's like Stepford Wives, right? That it's making a satire of a social or political context, or it's making light of it in a way. And it was funny. I was astounded at how funny parts of it were, because this trailer makes it seem so serious, so incredibly dark horror. But that's not, I think, and it is, but it's got the one character is entirely comedic relief.
Yeah.
His friend, Ron.
Straight out of a Dave Chappelle skit or something.
Right. So, I think starting off, I watched Red Letter Media's review on this yesterday after I watched the movie, and I agree with a lot of what they said. I don't know if you saw it, but I'll bring up some of their points. One, Jay mentioned the strings in the opening of a 1970s horror film. We don't see that anymore. Like the high-pitched string noises,
Really?
When was the last time you heard that in a horror film? A classic, high-pitched string.
No, I can't think. When you say strings, you mean like a musical note or something that they're using to indicate like something?
That kind of shit. That stuff, they don't use that anymore. It was very clearly to me, and what Mike said about it was that the movie reminded him of an episode of Star Trek: The Original Series. And while I get that, I get where he's coming from in that people, the crew of the Enterprise goes to a planet, and there's something weird. What it is. To me, though, it really, really was like a classic Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
And I mean the old ones, so it's like...
Sure.
It's a thing where something's really weird, but the whole interest is in finding it out. And I'll say this because I ruined the movie for myself. I read all the spoilers.
Oh, no.
Watch the trailer, you've spoiled half the movie for yourself.
Like I said, I went in totally blind, and I didn't notice that about the... I wanted to just... Basically, I'm so busy these days that I don't want to get hyped up on stuff, because I think hype is kind of like mind control, and people get you hyped up for stuff, and then you really want to go see it, and it's a lot more exciting than and immersive than it should be, because the product itself might not be that exciting. And just a small look into how I felt about the movie, I wasn't a huge fan of it. So I might be different from what everyone else feels about it.
Love it. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. To me, like I said, it seemed like a sort of average episode of The Twilight Zone. And for a first attempt as a director also.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, yeah, but he's had so much experience out there, and if you give anyone a boatload of money and they have at least some TV experience, I think they can produce something average, as long as there's not like cocaine or something involved. Although you can usually get something really cool like Maximum Overdrive and Stephen King and that. But yeah. I mean, it's fine. I thought it was. I wouldn't say it was even good. I would say it was blasé. It was average, completely average. And I think that when you juxtapose that with the praise it's getting, it's kind of it's obscene. I'm like, I didn't watch the same movie these critics are praising. It's almost, I feel like they might have been paid.
On Rotten Tomatoes, there is precisely one negative review of it. And
yeah, it's insane. I read that review, actually. I went and read it today. It makes no sense. It's really,
I didn't agree with everything, but yeah.
I didn't like the review. It was way too wordy, and it felt like he had some sort of ulterior motive in writing it. What's that guy's name? Doesn't he? Doesn't he have like a thing where he does stuff and people he's notorious for it?
Yes, I'm trying to think of his name now because I'm completely. It's here somewhere. This is the thing about editing, because I can just find it later, or I can edit in later. His name. I read his article though, and the wordiness was weird.
He was like using all these words, and I'm like, I'm a pretty cerebral, intelligent person, and I don't understand what the hell he's talking about.
He's trying to be verbose for the sake of verbosity, and I didn't. I agreed that was a little weird. Now I thought I had this saved. Apparently,
I can pull it up. I can see the one.
Well, also because there was a thing where oh shoot, maybe I'm missing my computer's been fucking up, like I said, and now there's all kinds of garbo. There was basically one of the other the guy I think who played. Wasn't the fat guy. One of the other black actors wrote a whole little spiel getting fucking irate about that review, saying it destroys the film because now it's only 99% positive. I'll throw it up. I'll have it on the screen whenever I find it, because I know it fucking
His name's Armand White, and it's the National Review.
Yep. And he's black. Get it?
Yeah.
But yeah. It's
he strikes me as like an Uncle Ruckus, from Boondocks.
No, I don't think he's I don't think he's an Uncle Tom. I think he has an agenda. Absolutely.
He's like the anti-Uncle Tom. That's what I got from him. I didn't know what he was talking about.
I didn't understand half of it either. Like I liked some of it, at least that he was willing to call it out. I liked that bit, I guess. But
yeah, it's always frustrating when you have someone that's not following the beat of everyone else's drum.
There's clearly a narrative. There's clearly a narrative going on with the reviews. And I agree with you.
I'm just looking at some of these reviews. Like, there's this one, it says, here's a blurb from it. Mark my words, it'll be a modern classic. You know what I think? I think in 2 months, no one's even going to remember this.
No one will remember this movie. And in my original video, one of the things I was going to do is I was going to bring up some of my favorite horror movies and look at the reviews they have on Rotten Tomatoes. So let's see. El Orfanato, The Orphanage. The critics, 87%. That's pretty high for horror. You should know this as well. Critics hate horror. Why are they so completely in love with this one? Well, it's political. I guarantee it. It is. It's political.
Yeah.
And you want we'll get to the irony political of this movie. We'll get to that because I've got some interesting points. Let's see. The Witch. Did you see that?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't had a chance to see it.
Oh. So good. Oh, it's amazing. And now that one has a 91%. That's, I think, the highest I've ever seen for a horror movie. Of course, the audience score is 56. Movie is all spoken in temporally based dialect, I think. That's part of it. And it's slow. The average, fucking retard can't understand that. And then A Tale of Two Sisters is 85%. So, best horror films I can think of recent memory of the last 20 years, in my opinion. Those are the top 3. And then my favorite, Noroi, doesn't have a rating, so nothing there. But 99. It's a little extreme. That's
it's weird. It's like
that's Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
well, you know what it is nowadays. It's back in the day that people were watching movies. There was a few people that would review movies, like Ebert and others, and they were respected. And they lived and died on their careers doing this. And now that there's the internet, anybody can put their word out there and say, I liked it for this or that, or any magazine can start up and start reviewing stuff on the internet. And I think it's just, there's a plurality of voices, and they're all kind of just going to start agreeing with each other, and there's no standout people that I trust anymore. Everybody just goes to the internet now and looks at a number, and I think those numbers are easily diluted, especially like IMDb. Yep. If you go on IMDb now that everybody has the internet and knows how to navigate to those websites and knows how to make a fake account.
Everyone can make an IMDb account and rate movies,
And they rate it not on, is it an actual 1 through 10 scale? They say 10 means I liked it and I didn't hate it, and 1 means I don't like it or I have a reason to not like this movie and I'm going to rate it a 1. So the rating system on IMDb is completely just effed out. It's just prolapsed, pointless. Don't pay attention to it. So
so these are... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just saying I take these numbers now, Rotten Tomatoes numbers and stuff like that. I don't take them as anything now. It's just whatever.
You can't, and it's just like the mainstream media, the news. You can't. There was a point in time where there was an establishment that said that these reviewers, these journalists, had some level of integrity. Now maybe they never did, but at least growing up, that's how I always felt. I feel like we're so far beyond that we do have to have citizen journalism. We do have to have citizen movie reviewers because. Tell the truth. They're all paid off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's movie making. It's the biggest money laundering scheme in the world, Hollywood. I mean, there's going to be they're going to have their hands out there giving out free tickets to these movies and telling people, like, if you want to keep getting movies to review to keep your audience happy with your reviews, so you're up. I know myself, if I review something, if I'm not reviewing the latest greatest unknown thing, people aren't going to pay 2 shits to me. If I review a movie 2 weeks after it's out, no one's going to care. They're not going to watch it. They want to see something reviewed that they haven't seen yet because they're going out to the theater and they want to see it. And I think what happens is these movie companies, they come to these reviewers and they say, look, we'll give you tickets to these things and we'll keep giving you tickets. But if you take a shit on Ghostbusters, you're not going to get any more free movie tickets. So you better say
no, that's exactly what they do. Because that's what Gamergate was all about. Because it was like, if you don't give our game a positive review, I've got one of the first things I ever did in terms of investigative. I was an undergrad and I wrote this paper in 2010, so 3 years before Gamergate happened. I will pull it up right now because it's on the same computer, about ethics and journalism in video games. And how there was all this. Actually, it might not have been 2010. We'll fucking see. Let me just.
You made it. You made it before it became a thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's on my Tumblr. I mean, astoundingly, I have a Tumblr. I just never use it because I never saw the appeal. Anyway, whatever. I wrote this whole thing, and that was it. What they were doing. It's like a 9 out of 10 copy, and it's a little bit different for games because with film critics, you need probably, how much time do you think you need to write a review? A day or 2? But with game reviewers. You need a lot of time because you have to play the game, and that takes way more time than a movie. So when a company says, we're just not going to send you anymore, you're barred, you're fucked, there's no way they can produce content. And, that's terrifying. And it's the same thing. I mean, a little bit, movie reviewers can get away with it if they don't have advanced copies, but it's still, it's coercion. All it can be. If it's not financial, there is... other supplementary ways to be coercive. I have a couple of reviews here. So let's see. Matthew Lacona, a top critic on Rotten Tomatoes, these are all going to be from Rotten Tomatoes, says that the film is cultural appropriation that shifts from problematic to horrific in writer-director Jordan Peele's sharp, scary world of stuff white people like.
Does that mean he liked it or didn't like it? I can't tell.
5-star. He gave it Amy Nicholson, who I've seen before, she works for MTV. She says, in most slasher flicks, was this a slasher flick?
No, it's not.
It is not at all. It's a Twilight Zone episode. It's an okay Twilight Zone episode.
It's
anyway, in most slasher flicks, sorry, a guy like Chris would die first. But the cliche has it backwards. Young black men know their lives are in peril from the first frame.
Yeah, and then they do a bunch of stupid things that kind of delay getting out of there. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, the end, we'll get there. The end was abysmal. Would you agree?
Yeah, he turns into the Terminator and just murders everybody, and I think they wanted people to be like cheering.
Spoiler! It's okay. Yeah, okay, so from this point on, anybody listening, or when I do my editing of this as well, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk, let's just be unabashed about our spoilers.
We need to talk about what happened in the movie if we're gonna be honest about what it is, because if we don't like it, people need to know why. I think that people are gonna be watching this are people that want to know why we didn't like it, if anybody.
Well, I didn't dislike it. I just I didn't love it. I, as someone who's seen, also hundreds of horror movies, this is one that it's par for the course. It's average.
Yeah.
But we'll go through it. So let's set up the plot. So Chris is the main character. I don't know the actor's name. I apologize. I do know the name of the characters. So Chris, friend Rose, have been dating for 5 months, and Rose is a skinny little white girl, very cute. Actually, that actress is adorable.
Yeah.
Like, part of this was that Jordan Peele, I don't know this actor's name, it's like Kualia, he picked like the deepest shade of dark black guy. He was also good at least holding his mouth open. He was really good at that. But so that's Chris is her black boyfriend, and their parents' house for the weekend, and Chris is concerned because he asks Rose, do your parents know I'm black? And Rose immediately says, I noticed this, my dad would have voted for Obama a third time if he had been able to. So it's off the bat, we've already got the racial tension stuff forward to the forefront here. And then it's repeated as they're driving upstate or wherever. It's clearly like New England somewhere, which so many of the best American horror movies are set in New England. And it's just a creepy place. Anyway, so they're driving, they hit a deer. Why did he look at the deer like that? Do you remember that part? He walked over to just stare at it?
It's one of the reviews that I read, and I said I didn't watch any or read any reviews. I read at least a few. They said that it was him identifying with the feeling of an animal that's blindsided out in the middle of the woods.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it's not evident. I personally, I don't think it was evident from what happened. Because I didn't get it either.
And I'm going to talk about a lot of that later, in that I think that this movie wasn't great. It was a good satire. I think the satire, and I think more the subtleties of it, are going to be lost on 95% of people who watch it. They're not going to see what this movie is satirizing. They're not going to get it. It's just going to fly right over their heads. But stuff like that flew over mine, because I was like, why was he looking at the deer? I thought that was maybe him just like looking at death for the first time, because then when it comes to the end, we have a very different Chris than who we are led to believe or who we see throughout the entire film, who seems to be a pretty normal guy. And so they get to her parents' house. Oh wait, my point about the race bit and the racial tension. So a cop comes and talks to them about the deer, and he wants to see, it's in the trailer too, he wants to see Chris's ID. And of course the implication is, well, it's because he's a black man in a white area. And Rose, what does she do?
She says, you better back off my man. You don't need to check his ID. He didn't do anything, because she's well-versed on, don't talk to cops.
Yeah, and she's virtue signaling a little bit about her whole, I'm so pro-black. And then he's afraid her parents won't like him. He shows up, her dad immediately hugs him. But they've got a black groundskeeper and a black housekeeper. Rose's father immediately is hugging Chris and showing him all this love, and he keeps using what I'm sure is supposed to be urban language, like calling him my man this, my man that. And that makes Chris uncomfortable, but that's not the only thing. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the weird shit going on in this house?
Well, I mean, he walks in there to these two affluent white people who are trying to, patronize him a little bit and be his buddy, or I guess his brother, I should say.
Yeah, and, brother.
They want to be his brother, man. What's going on, man? He gets into the house and he sees there's this maid there, and she's African American, and she looks like she's from the 60s when they had, they still had African American maids that lived in the house and took care of the kids and all that. And,
right.
Mammy. Yeah, it's Mammy.
I like how we came up with Mammy at the same point.
Yeah, it's Mammy.
But yeah, she's very stereotypical looking.
Yeah, and they kind of broach it. The dad says, I know how it looks, but it's not what you think because, I would have voted for Obama a third time, blah, blah, blah. And then there's another character, the groundskeeper, who is just this big, not like gigantic black guy, but he's kind of imposing, and he's built up. He's kind of a brick wall.
And that comes back into it later, him being so athletic.
Yeah, so he just notices some things are off, and I mean, it's not at that point of the movie, and this is one of my gripes with it, is that it takes about 45 minutes for anything to happen.
Do you not like that? See, for me, like I said, my favorite horror movie is Noroi, which is long, and nothing happens for 80% of it. Well,
I mean, I like Noroi too, and I've seen that. I like that director.
I'm that person.
I was the one that told you to watch. I told you to watch Noroi, I believe. I was the one that keyed you in on that. Yeah, I was the one that clued you into that.
Oh my god! Well, then I owe you because it's Lovecraft.
Yeah,
I adore it, and I adore all of his other works, particularly the Lovecrafty ones like Karuto.
Yeah, I like Koto too, but I'm going to disagree with you there. I think Noroi, there was stuff happening all the time. It was just very subtle. In this other...
Subtle, yeah.
Yeah, in Get Out, it's non-existent. It's just kind of playing off the whole, it's an awkward family meeting, and it only really gets weird after those 45 minutes, and that's when the first night happens. That's when it really starts, something is not right.
Yeah, that is it. So yeah, it is probably 45 minutes of nothingness, actually. I'd have to go back and... Well, I could bring up the video right now and see...
It's just, well, you described everything that happens. He meets his girlfriend at his place. They go to meet the parents. The one thing that happens is they hit the deer, but that's a jump scare, and it's just, billions of movies.
Yeah, that was weak.
Anyone could do that. I could just, fucking clap really loudly right now and scare everybody. It'd be the same thing. It's stupid.
Right. Jump scares are all just fight or flight flex.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? In terms of a psychological standpoint. But, because one of the things I did want to talk about is a little bit about some of the theories of horror in a different video.
Sure.
I love horror theory, and Dolph Zillman, who's like the father of Dr. Dolph Zillman, who's like the father of horror theory. I have a lot of things to say about his research because some of it's not very comfortable for me, but it's true. Like, for example, that I think women enjoy horror films more if there's a guy, a partner next to them who's acting really brave, because it's in his argument it's a rehearsal of gender roles.
Yeah.
I'm the strong hunter and I won't be afraid of this. Yeah. Whereas like when the woman wasn't scared, for example, with a guy partner, guy hated the movie. So it's like, why the fuck is this bitch not terrified? And as a woman who loves horror, makes me go, there must be something wrong with me. I have a clearly different thing going on.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is that during the movie, when I was watching it, I was banging my head on the seat because I got kind of bored, and my girlfriend was like, can you stop that? So I don't think she was too into me being the big protective man. I was just kind of like, I was antsy. I was like, I want something to happen. Come on.
There's nothing, you're right, there's nothing scary happening. Now, I don't mind tone building. I think that's what was going on. Was it there's something weird, but was it too long of a tone build? Yeah, probably. I think they spent too long on it.
Especially when the characters like to talk about it incessantly from the get-go, and they're immediately saying, well, this is what's going to happen. They do the whole, tell, not show thing, where they just tell you exactly, it's going to be really awkward. You're going to have a really weird time because, we're black, and we're a black and white relationship, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, we get it. We know what's going to happen. We know from the advertisement that was going to be what this movie's about. You have time here, Mr. Peel, to do something else with the movie. You can make it
something else, right?
Scary. But you can do something.
That reminded me, they also give that away in the first fucking 30 seconds. Yeah. With the other black guy getting abducted, who's just walking on the street. That's the first minute of the movie. Is like, you can tell that what's going to happen is something bad's going to happen to black people.
Right.
They know something bad's going to happen to Chris.
I think they should have just cut that out and left it. I understand it's a Trayvon Martin reference or whatever, but I just should have left it out, gone into this and make people think that it's going to be some, hunky-dory, Meet the Fockers or something, and it turns out into something entirely different. That would have been fine, but it's just kind of uneven. I don't know why it was there.
If I had made this trailer, if I made the trailer for it and the advertising for it, I wouldn't have said anything about the spoiler.
Yeah.
Like, what does this trailer for the Stepford Wives look like? Does it reveal that they're robots? I don't think so.
No, it just says
away?
there's something. Yeah, they probably did, but I mean, we think there's some sort of conspiracy going on where they just love this movie, so people are going to give it a pass. But from a bare bolts, nut and bolts kind of horror review, which is what I like to do, I think it was kind of uneven, and I thought they were kind of ponderous. And in a lot of the dialogue in the movie, when they're talking, they always talk like this. And there's a pause.
It's really slow. It is a slow mover. And
there's like pauses everywhere. And I guess maybe the director was like expecting people to be reacting to it, not notice it. But I was just bored out of my mind. So I'm like, this is dragging.
You cut out. Yeah. Once it gets to the 45-minute mark, I'd say there's about, because the whole movie is an hour and 40. So I'd say there's probably 40 good minutes there. Am I like all wrong on my math?
So, I wouldn't call them good minutes. I would call it it's finally starts becoming the movie it's meant to be.
Right. It becomes a horror film at that point. Yeah. Before then, it's just sort of like creepy atmosphere. Now again, I usually like that kind of stuff. I like the slow atmosphere build, something happening. I just think there was that first day for whatever reason. Maybe it was like that to put you off guard, to think this family, there's nothing weird about them. I mean, they're weird a little bit, but they don't want to fucking cut his brain open and steal it or steal his body. Like, maybe they wanted to put you at ease, but then they have so many uncomfortable moments with their weird use of language, or with the brother who is a fucking asshole at night or something. But
that guy was weird. I don't know what that was about. I guess it was it's like a frat boy parody or something. It was a little weird.
I don't know if that was it. I think that he was supposed to be the more overtly racist one, but the whole thing about the racism in this is that it's not benevolent. It's like, and I'll just say this now.
Frat boys are pretty racist nowadays. They sing the racist songs.
I've seen them
all.
They give KKK songs.
Yeah.
I think that they said like, his method of extracting them is much more brutal or something. The way that he picks up black dudes or ladies, I guess. But that at the end. But
okay, yeah.
So like he's doing it too. They're the two runners, right?
Yeah.
Like the daughter and the son.
Let's keep going with the plot, and then so people know what we're talking about when we say runners.
Right. So essentially, what happens is that there's some weirdness with the family. The brother's a bit of a dick. Chris smokes. He goes out for a smoke. And first of all, he sees the black gardener just like running around the lawn, and that's like a jump scare, I guess. But it wasn't scary because first of all, it was in the trailer, and then then he goes back inside.
I didn't see the trailer. I didn't take it as a jump scare. For me, it was more just of why is that person running up towards you thing. It would be kind of freaky if you went out at night and you saw someone just like running up to you, like they're just running at you. Now, here's what I thought I had while watching that. I remember a skit. I don't remember who it was. It was one of those black comedians. It might have been Dave Chappelle or someone that said that if a black person sees another black person running, they just take off with them, and they don't ask why. They just say, they're gone. They go running. And the thing is, this character didn't do that. He just stood there and watched him. And I was thinking in my head, like, do I praise the movie for not falling to that stereotype where black people are just running if they see someone else running because they don't ask questions? Like, I don't know. I didn't know. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's funny, though. That's funny. He's bucking the narrative.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. I'll point out at the end when we've talked about the whole plot why I think there is some good in this movie that it's not going to get recognized for. Right, so there's a guy, the groundskeeper is just running around at 10,000 miles an hour. He goes back inside, and Rose's mother is sitting there drinking her tea and asks him, this is also in the trailer, do you see, the whole movie is in the trailer, do you smoke in front of my daughter? And so he's like, oh no, I'm trying to quit. And she's like, oh, well, let me help you. And then without his permission, really, and then he falls into the sunken place, which is this like place inside of his head, which is all darkness, and all he can see is like a little TV screen of reality. The next morning, he wakes up. Yeah, that was actually kind of neat. I liked the sunken place stuff.
That was okay.
It wasn't like
that was the only really like unique thing about the movie I felt. That was the only thing that you could point out and say, that's this movie. You won't confuse this with another movie. That's this movie. It's kind of like that scene in Train Spotting when he's on the drugs, when he sinks into the carpet.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that.
That's really like it, because he sinks into the chair. So that's pretty much the same thing. So it's not even that original. It does, though, it reminds me so much of like a really mediocre Twilight Zone or an X-Files episode.
Yeah.
This mad scientist shit that goes on. Like, you saw the second X-Files movie, right?
I saw it when it came out. I mean, it's been a while.
I want to believe it.
Yeah.
And it was like, they made the whole, it was a Frankenstein doctor thing. And it's like, well, that's okay, but this is a mediocre episode. You just made a movie out of a mediocre episode. That's... Yeah. Again, that's called the first Star Trek movie.
I like the first Star Trek movie. I just watched it earlier this year. I liked it.
Oh, the motion picture.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I liked it more than it was. Well, I think I spoke about this with you, but I liked it a lot more than I did Khan, because I felt like Wrath of Khan, he's this amazing genius, and then he does the most stupid things ever with this little creation thing, and it doesn't make any sense. So I was like, whatever. I like the first one a lot better.
The Genesis probe? Yeah, he's stupid. My favorite will always be Star Trek 4. I like the one with... I have a poster of it. It's right there.
Yeah.
The one with the whales. The one where they save the whales.
The nuclear vessels and all that. Yeah, that was good.
Vessels. Hello, we are looking for the nuclear vessels. Anyway, do you know that was improv?
No, I didn't know that.
But there's a girl that walks up to them in that scene. They're in San Francisco, and he's like, looking for the nuclear vessels, and this young lady walks up, and she's like, oh no, I think they're across the bay in Alameda. This is how much I know this movie. And that was improv, and it's actually one of the better scenes. It's what I said in Alameda. Oh my god, wait, I'm so off track. I can never talk about Star Trek, or else I get a weird word. No, don't you? No, it's.
I don't have anyone to talk about Star Trek with. Although Brianna is watching Deep Space Nine with me, and I'm amazed. She's actually like, I like this, and I'm like, you.
Well,
hate,
it's impossible to not.
Yeah, she likes Odo, so we're blood brothers on that one.
I love Odo! Yay! Odo and Kira is my one.
Yeah,
they're adorable.
So what were we talking about? Were we talking about like a black horror movie or something, or Star Trek? I don't know. Right?
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, so he wakes up the next morning. What?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the next morning, he wakes up, and there's been a little discussion earlier where it's like, oh, well, Grandpa's party is going to happen tomorrow. And, Rose is like, what do you mean Grandpa's party's happening tomorrow? Now, Grandpa's dead, but apparently they throw this party, every year, I guess, by their admission, just socialize, I suppose. It's not really explicated further than that.
Yeah.
And so this is where some of the weirder stuff starts to happen. And there's all these white people, and they all keep asking him really like uncomfortable questions, like asking him if he plays golf, and like, let me see your form, boy. So it's find out later why they were doing this, but they're all questions, and a lot of them do this bizarre praising of blackness.
Yeah.
Very attractive. We also find that out later. And finally, he sees another black man.
Yeah.
And this was in the trailer as well. He's like, glad to see another brother here. And the dude's super weird. He's, I don't know, how would you describe how he acted? Just unusual?
He's basically like an erudite North American, that Atlantic accent, that what is it called? It's a North Atlantic accent where they're not quite British, but they're like a news announcer.
It's like a bit of
accent
where it's not quite British, but it's just posh.
If he was English, I'd call him posh. He just comes off as very not what you would expect from a black person that's grown up in America. Very formal.
Right, and then this was in the trailer again, where he like goes to give him a fist bump, and he just grabs it.
Yeah,
and there all these. And so that's very uncomfortable. I get that. That's weird. But that's like awkward handshake videos. That's like this, where, have you ever seen this? Like, have you ever seen Trump? Have you ever seen Trump shakes?
He
grabs him and
yanks him. Yeah,
it's really funny. But yeah, so it's like a really weird, awkward handshake. And so Chris is weirded out, and he wants to go home.
I felt like this party part where just to give some insight into it, I felt it was like if this was going to be a skit, this would be the meat of the skit. This would be the white couple that just got together going to a party, and then the guys asking like really awkward questions and stuff, insinuating that they want like a mandingo, giant built black slave, to come back to their house to do some chores, in quotation marks.
Right, which is, I believe, how the audience is supposed to feel.
Yeah, we're supposed to. We're like, yeah, this is not right. This is our Wicker Man moment where we're like, this village is not right. These people are weird. There's something going on here.
Yeah, the Wicker Man. I was actually trying to think of what movie I would compare this to. Wicker Man's a good one.
Yeah,
it has some Wicker Man.
Yeah, it's Straw Dog's Wicker Man. It's the guy coming into the new area, and he's realizing the neighbors aren't all there, and there's something there that you're not supposed to like.
Yeah. So he goes and talks to Rose, and she sort of convinces him to stay, I guess. So they're gonna stay another night.
Yeah.
Right, to deal with how weird her family is, because she this whole time has been very dismissive of the way they act. Like, oh, don't pay attention to Dad. He's just weird,
Yeah, she was humoring him.
Right. I don't know. He's trying to assuage, his fears. They're not racist. They're just clueless because they're a bunch of rich white people. They just trying to mean well. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Let's see what happens next. It's nighttime again. We get a weird sequence where we see them all playing bingo. Photographer. Yeah. There's a photographer, and Chris is a photographer. He's not a photographer. I'm sorry. He's an art dealer. And he talks about how he never had the eye for photography, and Chris has the eye. And then we see them playing bingo, and it's silent and weird. So that's setting up for what comes next.
And there's a picture. There's a picture of Chris on the gazebo, a big picture of Chris, like an artistic photograph of him, and you can tell that they're auctioning Chris, and you're like, oh, okay, so these are modern day slave owners, okay, or something. You don't really know.
A little bit because he also had interacted with the groundskeeper, and both times with the groundskeeper and with the maid or the housekeeper, the way that they acted made him think that they were protective of Rose in some way, or that the groundskeeper wanted to bang her, I guess. But so he's already like weirded out about the two black servants, and so if you're not aware and you just see these white people. Black dude, you think, oh, they're gonna brainwash him or something. Because then also, so this was after they got back, I think, was it? From now I'm getting the order reversed, where the one black dude who he met at the party, he takes a picture of him with his cell phone, and the flash makes him freak out.
Yeah, he freaks out, and he says, get out, and there's your title mentioned right there. Yeah, get out. And that's where you definitely know something's wrong. And at that point, I'm just like, and this is my analysis of the movie, I would be like, yeah, okay, this is the moment where if this is truly about black people, and I'm not trying to be racist here, but every black person I've ever heard when they've watched a horror movie, they would say, yeah, at that point, I'd be out of there. The second some freaky shit's happening, I'm gone. I'm not even coming back. There's no question about it. And yet, in this movie, they're doing the same exact thing. So I guess, he just doesn't quite run the fuck out of there at that point. He just keeps going with it, and you're like,
for some reason, I don't know. He clearly loves Rose, and she keeps, soothing him on it. Oh, it's okay. He just had a seizure. Oh, they do. Yeah, he just had a seizure. It's my dad's a neurosurgeon. Trust me. It's just if my dad, the neurosurgeon, says it's a seizure, then it's a seizure. And so there's that whole fucking shit. But yeah, so he clearly loves her. We're shown that actually several times in the film, that they're very close, that they're very much in love, or at least he's in love with her.
Yeah.
So he stays the night. The last night he wasn't going to, but no, he does convince her to leave. And she's like, okay, we'll leave.
Yeah.
we'll leave because this is weird. She's like, okay, let's pack up. And, you know, there's been all kinds of weird shit going on. Like his phone keeps getting unplugged and little things that, you know, I wouldn't consider. Yeah. And even that, I think it takes probably 30 minutes to get to the phone being unplugged.
Yeah, that was like the big thing. She unplugged my phone. Okay.
And it died. Oh, but the whole time he's texting or calling back and forth with his friend who's watching his dog, Rob?
I think it was the TSA agent. I think it was Rod.
Yeah, the TSA. Rod?
Yeah, I think it's Rod. I can look it up. Keep going. I'll look it up.
Yeah, so so there's a TSA agent, and he's the comic relief, and he is pretty funny. And he says from the beginning, and this is also tension, a bunch of white folk, like they're gonna fucking lynch you, or something to that effect, you know.
He says, he gets freaked out at that point because that's a little later on, but basically he says that there's some weird shit going on here because he recognizes the guy at the party because he sends that picture he took the picture of him. He sent it to Rod, and Rod said, that is my boy such and such is from the cousin from down at the movie theater that, you know, that disappeared. Right. We know him, and Chris recognized him too, but couldn't place him quite where. So at that point, I mean, and this is another gripe with the movie, and I guess most lazy horror movies, if somebody saw that shit at that point, they'd be gone. They'd be out of there. I mean, I don't care who you are, but who you love, right? I'd be out of there. I've gotten into arguments with my girlfriend over much stupider things where I've said, I'm going to go and do something else, and I would have done something else at that point in this movie. But anyway, he sends it to Rod, and Rod says, I know that guy. They're doing some crazy shit up there. They're doing sex slave shit. And, you think the people, like, he gives an example. He's like, you remember Jeffrey Dahmer? Those guys went to Jeffrey Dahmer's house. Yeah, he says, you remember Jeffrey Dahmer? Those guys that went to go to Jeffrey Dahmer's house? They thought they were just going to suck some dick or something. And instead they ended up getting their brains ate. So he's like, yeah, there's something weird going on there. You need to get out of there. So he tells them that.
He also, that's convince them that there's a bunch of rich white people brainwashing blacks and turning them into sex slaves.
Yes, that's exactly
in Connecticut or whatever. But so at this point, this is birth shit because Chris wants to leave. I forget what the impetus or the defining moment where he's like, no, we gotta leave now. I forget which one that was. Oh no, it's
when Rod tells him that he knows the guy. It's his friend from Brooklyn. That's when he's like, we gotta go.
Finds the photos, Rose's photos.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't get that part. He's like, oh, let's leave. And then he's already gonna leave at that point, so I would be expecting him. I was expecting him to pack his bags and get the hell out of there, but he stops. He looks over, and for some reason, there's a closet door open. And then for another inexplicable reason, he goes over to the closet, and he goes through some photographs. And I'm thinking in my head, like, if I'm convinced at this point I need to leave, I don't need to go see these photos. I think it was kind of a movie goof or something. Maybe they should have had this scene earlier or something. Like, maybe he accidentally walks into a room or something. I don't know, but...
I think, like, that was supposed to be a problem. What that should have been was him saying, I can't trust her. The one person I thought I could trust here. And it's clear that something weird, she is pictured with all of these black people, all of these black guys and a black lady who he recognizes as the groundskeeper and the housekeeper. Clearly, and by the way, they point up earlier in the film, he's her first black boyfriend. So now he knows her family's fucking nuts or something weird, and now sees that there's this weird why is she dating the groundskeeper, why is she dating the maid at that point. But then he continues to trust her as he goes downstairs and is like, Rose, give me the keys to the car, give me the keys to the car.
That was stupid. That was such a movie goof. He should have been like, I'm out. He should have just been booking it out. Like, I don't know what's up with you guys are all like, every black person that's probably gotten frustrated with white culture, they should have just been like, I'm out, I'm done with you motherfuckers, I'm done, I'm out. That would have been funny. He just says, no, I'm done. He should have been saying what the audience was saying.
Superior genetics. He uses superior genetics to run the fuck away, since that's their whole thing.
He should have been like saying what the black people in the movie audience would probably be saying at that point, like, get the fuck out. And that would have been funny.
Hey, that's the name of the movie.
That. Yeah. That's the sequel. Get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out. Oh, well, yeah.
No, the sequel. Then there's a third sequel. Don't go in there. And then there's a fourth one.
Dude, I hate people who try to pretend like there isn't a definitive behavior black people at the movie theater. I've grown up around black people because I'm from Baltimore, and yeah, there is a definitive movies.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Atlanta, so I know.
Right, so it's the same thing. So you've seen it, and like people are like, "That's racist." No, it's not. It's real. They do that shit. Like that's okay. White people have.
Yeah, white people have their own thing. Like I crack stupid jokes. You know, they yell at the theater, and then. So I mean, yeah, that's a thing.
Honestly,
when I saw the movie, I was only in there with a few people. There was there's a white older couple there, and then there was one black guy. And the only thing he did in the movie, he was on his phone for like the first 45 minutes. Like we said, was boring. He was just on his phone the whole time, and I just started coughing. Like, dude, come on, you turn the phone off. Come on. But he didn't like freak out or anything.
I wish I still lived in Baltimore to go see horror movies, because if it's a good horror movie, but if it's a bad horror movie, that enhances it by like an incredible degree. When there's like a black lady and her like 6 kids just freaking out, that's really, really funny. And entertaining, because I'm actually really watching her. I'm not watching the movie because the movie is shitty.
Right, it's an experience. It becomes a shared experience at that point, like a gestalt, and you're getting more out of that than you are of whatever it is that's on the screen.
It's sort of the same thing as something like Mystery Science, where I'm enjoying you talking about the movie more than I am the film itself, because the film is shit. Anyway, I didn't think this was shit, but so is that the whole family, they get together, they take Chris down to their secret rape dungeon or whatever dungeon.
Yeah.
His brain, and it's then made very clear that what they want to do with him is not to enslave him or brainwash him, but to put the white brain into his body, since he's the one who won the auction.
That's where they lost me. I was just like, oh, okay.
Well, that's the Twilight Zone twist, I guess. That's the mad scientist thing. It's just the reveal.
The problem with it is that it's just flat out goofy. It's goofy as all hell to say that they have these abilities to switch brains with people, and then they're just obsessed with getting the black body and the black genetics or whatever, and inhabiting that body and having that power. And I guess it's immortality or whatever, but I'm like, if you had that kind of knowledge, you can do so many other things just tangentially with that power. That to have these people just... I know it's like, it's a horror movie, and you could say it's a horror movie all day long, but this movie pretended to be a very serious thing, and maybe this feels comedic side coming out, but the whole first half of the movie is pretty humorous, but it's serious. It could take place in reality. But then we get to this part, and they're like, oh, we're switching people's brains around, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's
the brain switching I thought was fun. And how silly
I didn't think it was
like... Because, again, it reminded me of an X-Files episode or a Twilight Zone episode where it's like, so when you're watching the Twilight Zone, pretty much every episode, like, there's weirdness going on, and then at some point it just goes to 10.
There is, but there's a tone to it, and it's not uneven, in my opinion. The worst Twilight Zone episodes are the ones where the tone is just completely uneven. Like the one where the guy has a gambling addiction. Very serious problem. Guy has gambling addiction. It's going to lead up to his death. And then the Twilight Zone episode, it reaches the apex of, I think, the worst Twilight Zone episode reveal ever. He gets killed by a gambling machine that breaks his door down and pushes him out of a hotel window. And I'm like... Where's the moral in this story? I don't understand.
That's not a really memorable one.
I remember it was so bad. I was like, oh my god. And that's how I felt this movie was. Because it's all, there's a real problem with racism in America. Fine. But then to tail end it with this horror reveal that it's guys switching brains around. I thought it was going to be something different. When I heard the name of the project that he did, it's called Project Coagula. That was the name of the project.
And I said, neato.
Coagula reminds me of coagulant. So I was thinking, I got it. It's the blood. They take these guys, they emasculate them, probably turn them into eunuchs, and they keep them around as servants, and then they drain their blood out, and they like inject it or something into their body. That would have been a lot more plausible and not just brazenly stupid. It would have made sense. But they just literally cut the brains out and stick them into the...
The brain surgery stuff is dumb. I would admit that. It didn't bother me personally, because... the whole thing was a horror comedy, so I was already like, but you're right. The whole the whole 75% of it is played very straight.
Yeah.
and
yeah, and then they just
and
go to
very
this crazy, and it's like I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the movie, and it's kind of like this reveal is just dumb. If this hadn't been like, if this had been there wasn't this SJW context to the movie about how silly white people are and how rough black people have it these days. If there wasn't there, and it was just a regular horror movie, and then they had that twist there, people would be like, "This is the stupidest fucking movie I've ever seen this year. I'm done," and they would have walked out. But I guess since everyone has to pretend that it's the greatest thing ever, they're going to overlook that it's just a completely stupid plot device. And I was like, really?
Like
wow,
I said,
okay.
we'll get there. Mike said from Red Letter Media was that he could see the stupid version of this movie. And when I first saw the trailer and it made me mad, I laid out the stupid. And even if you think this movie is stupid, I don't think it's great. I played out in my head the stupid version, which is just like, yeehaw, what, I hate niggers, like that kind of fucking shit. And it was just going to be like straight played up, white people are out to kill blacks. But this was a bit of a subversion of that, which I did appreciate, because Peele knows this from a very personological level, which is that, and here's the bit I wanted to bring up.
Go ahead.
White people, liberals, just their adulation and their praises and their love and their veneration at black people being black. We see this all the time. It's like at the what is it? What's the music awards ceremony? It's escaping me right now. The Grammys. It's like
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't say it because she's black, but that's what she meant. Was that type of shit. But the thing about that is that it is so flat and fake admiration. They don't like black people for their personality or their intelligence or anything else about them. They like them because of the color of their skin, because of their genetics. And what do we have in this movie? We have a bunch of white people who love blacks to the point where they want to inhabit their bodies because they worship blackness. Like fucking Adele. That same type of... That's actually quite smart. I think that's a smart piece of satire. Do I think... This is what I want to discuss with you. Do you think the movie was able to actually... I do think that's what Peele meant.
Well, what if I made it... I want to make it... one thing that I'm not racist. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Trump voter. I'm not any of that. I'm not even really... I don't like Hillary Clinton. I like Bernie. I like Bernie Sanders. He's my guy. My school of thought is I'm in the middle, and I follow the teachings of Saint Fu, which is this thing I made up, and it's called shut the fuck up and just sit back and just worry about stuff that actually matters in your life immediately, and then you can start fixing the things that are bigger than that because you're fixing things in your own backyard first. But my thing with this movie is, while I was watching it, I wanted to make a movie about okay, the black guys get their horror movie, fine. I want to make a white person movie that's a horror movie that's kind of like this, where it's just a white guy trying to make it and survive, and he's got a nice job, and he gets screwed out of his nice job by things he can't control. And then he's trying to get unemployment, and he's screwed by the system there because it's very hard to get unemployment. And then he's trying to get things given to him that are supposed to be protections, and it turns out he can't get them because he was once a middle-class person who had a nice job. Now he's a poor person, so he's just getting stomped on further and further. And eventually he ends up like having to move out of his house and has to move into a trailer, and it becomes this very just low-class, white guy, and it ends up he's dirty. He doesn't even look really white, and he gets to a point where he's so destitute because of how things have gotten and how impossible it is to get out of the hole when you're financially poorly off. How bad that is, how hard it is for you. It doesn't matter what race you are. So he's dirty. He could be like a Latin guy. He could be a white guy. You can't really tell because he's so dirty. He goes out onto the streets and starts begging, and two things happen. He has a racist rich white guy drive by and say, go back to your fucking country, you wetback, because he looks like that. And then he has another thing happen. This white coffee drinking hipster SJW type walks by and says, "Ugh, just use your white privilege. Why do you look like that? You could just get out of the situation so easily if you just use what people give to you for free, and this is civilization." And then he just kind of sits there, and he sits down, and he's just like, "What the fuck?" And that's where the movie ends. because it's just like that's how I feel. Like I want to make like a white person horror movie where it's like poor, where
it's not really horror as much as it is just depressing.
The message would be it's this is what it's like when you're white. You really don't have all that much privilege if you're poor. Right? The real problem in this country is your social your
class.
Your class, your social mobility, the ability to move between different classes. And I believe firmly that once you're in the lower class, you're screwed. So that's my version of a horror movie. I would do that. If we get a black people horror movie, I want to do that type of horror movie. I think it would be a lot more profound.
It is very difficult to move out of lower social class, but
yeah. That's why I'm just me personally. I'm put off by the focus of the SJW and the college liberal and all that on how bad the liberal or how bad African Americans have it, how bad Latinos have it, and I'm like, yeah, I get all that. It's horrible, but I'm sitting here, someone who was formerly okay. I understand they had their problems, but I had my own problems. And the only way I can see us getting out of these problems is if we stop looking at things in a racial context and start looking at it as a class context, because I think, and I truly think this, I believe the higher class, the rich people, the really rich, the 1%, are playing us against each other on things we can't control. We can't control what our skin color is. We can't control what our gender is, although people out there are really trying to control what a gender is. I don't think we can control those things, but we can control how much money we have in our pockets, and I think that's where they get us. They get us to fight each other based on those things. So I just, like I said, shut the fuck up is all I want to say to people. I want to say, shut the fuck up, focus on how much money you have and how we can fight things on a political, economic scale, not on things we can't control like race and sex and all that. We're never going to change those things. We need to focus on how to harmonize aside from that. So that's my
I mean, I think what you're talking about in terms of the 1% is what I would call the deep state. So there are forces at work. I don't know if they're at work to divide us. I think that's certainly part of it, but they're also at work to subvert and to destabilize the government, or to control it, I should say more accurately, to control the government in their own way. Now that sounds like some Alex Jones level shit, but the deep state is real. It's a real thing. And yes, there is that. Now, in terms of black people, brown people, Asians, whatever, in the United States of America, maybe you might have someone say something rude to you.
Yeah.
Words, you face no discrimination. That's, unfortunately for them, a fact. Well, it is fortunate for them, actually, because they don't face any discrimination. So when I see movies like this, I mean, like you can argue that there's the police discrimination, and I have seen this in the data. There is a discrimination, at least in terms of cops are more likely to pull over, they're more likely to detain Latinos and blacks, but that's because they commit more crime. So
I think what they do. This is my own personal theory on why police go after colored people more often, or people of color. Sorry, what they do is. A cop is sitting at a four-way stop. He's looking at all the cars around him, and he can only judge a person by what he can see at that point.
Right.
If he sees a white person driving a shitty car, he's going to think, well, that guy's just having kind of a rough time. I don't need to bother him necessarily. If he sees a black guy, though, driving a shitty car, he's going to think, okay, I can go after this person. Now, what he's thinking is it's what he can see, and it's more likely that you're going to see a black person, you're going to think they're lower income class, because that's just how it's been in this country.
Correct, and
they can go after that person, but I believe that they'll go after a white person that's poor and do just as many shitty things to them as they would a black person. I think
I'm terrified of the police. I had 3 police officers show up at my door this morning because there's upstairs for me. Honestly, I don't know. It's a skinny little white girl, and she has 2 black boyfriends. I don't know. And they're so loud, and every once in a while she'll just start screaming. And today, apparently, at fucking 9 a.m., she screamed enough that the cops had to come by. So I had to go outside and meet the cops. And I was fucking terrified because, for no reason, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just afraid of cops because I don't trust them because, well, there's some research that indicates that people with high levels of Machiavellianism, they tend to become police officers. People who want power seek out positions of power, and as such,
it's definitely
not all cops. I have met incredibly amazing cops,
I don't even go out of my way to say there's some incredibly amazing cops, because I believe if there was truly incredibly amazing cops out there, they would be stopping these other bad cops and they would be policing their own system. So I don't for a minute want to sit here and I don't want to compliment any cop, because I'm just like, yeah, okay, you guys are so wonderful, you have such a hard job, blah blah blah. Yet you can't stop your own guys from shooting each other, shooting other people. They're innocent, and you got that thin blue line, which is a really creepy image because it's two big black portions. There's the thin blue line in the middle, and they're saying that the big black portion on the bottom is the criminals and the big black portion on the top is the innocent people, and the thin blue line is protecting everyone by keeping the black portion on the bottom from going over into the black portion on top. My problem with that is that they're both black portions. They're both like ominous things. So you're saying we're the same and you guys are different. You're the only different thing in the world. You're the thin blue line, the only thing that can be represented in this image. I'm just like, yeah, it's a little creepy. So yeah, I can see what you're saying about the police and everything, and I think there is discrimination, but I think it's not that there isn't discrimination of black people or Latinos or any people like that. I believe there's just an equal amount of discrimination against white people, and it's growing for everyone based on their economic class. And I think the Key and Peele movie is fine. The Key and Peele movie, the Peele movie, Get Out, it's fine. It's just I want to see a movie, like I said, about economic class, about poor people, because you can literally go to jail in this day and age if you have a broken taillight because you just can't get enough time or money together to put your taillight back on, and that puts you at a likelihood of interacting with a cop, and that cop is having a bad day, he can put your ass in jail. And I've had interactions with police that are just as bad as anything that's happened to anybody else, and I can tell you right now that it's just...
Oh my god, I've got a story. But, dude, you can go to jail if you don't have the money to pay for it for not buying insurance. In the country right now. Like, we're in a fucked up place. In terms of... I will say this, though. So I've got a couple statistics that I brought up real quick. When you have a population that's very easily identifiable, that commits more crime, and you can see in that car over there's a black guy. He's 25 times more likely to commit a violent crime. That doesn't make it fair. Doesn't mean it's fair. Unfortunately, are not fair. Statistics are, and when you have a statistic like that, I can't help but give cops a little bit of a wiggle room there for when they target blacks. Do I think it's racist? Maybe. It's based on their personal experiences because they're the ones arresting these people. They arrest way more blacks. They arrest way more Latinos, even when they live in areas where blacks are the majority.
I don't know if it's their personal experiences. I think it's just like you said, power is corrupting, and
power is also it. Yeah.
Like Zimbardo, said, in the Stanford prison experiment, if you give these people this power, they're going to abuse it. So they're going to abuse it if they have the power. And I just think getting caught up on the color is just a way of being divided and fighting with people based on things we really can't control. So we shouldn't be trying to differentiate and say things like that. But
there are uncomfortable statistics. But speaking of cops and speaking of the movie, so getting back to it, we have to talk about the end, but there is. I gotta quit.
Let's get back to what happened in the movie. Like, what was happening? We said that he was leaving the house. He got the thing with the brain. Somehow, he gets the cotton out. Yeah, he's in this chair, and the room he's in, it looks very like a Stanley Kubrick kind of 60s-ish vibe, like very stark. I think what they're trying to say there is that. I think what they're trying to say there is that it's like the end of Jim Crow era. Like the 60s was like the last real Jim Crow era time. So they're saying that's when time stopped in that world, in that basement world.
No, because they worship blackness. They worship at the altar of blackness. That's the whole thing. Is like Granddad couldn't beat Jesse Owens to a black body because he worships the genetic concept of blackness.
Which is a weird point to make. Do they think that racists don't like black people because they want to be black people? I don't get that.
No, like I said, I think this is him making a point and satirizing. Like I said, like Adele, like all these white people who are crying and trying to show their absolute veneration and adoration for black people on nothing other than the superficial fact. And that's what they're talking about. That these people, maybe he thinks they're, I forget what the term is for it, that are race realists, but myself included. Oops. those people, they're not going to think that blacks are better. Because, for example, IQ levels in Africa are about 20 points lower than they are in the United States.
Well, I mean, IQ testing.
But maybe that's why.
IQ
maybe that's why they. It's a fucked up. Yeah, it's not an exact science. It's
not.
Shit. But the thing is that, like, if they were like race realists, I guess their idea is that that's why they want to put their brains in there, because the black body is so much stronger and.
Who knows? It really wasn't that well.
Black men die younger. Blacks are very susceptible to heart disease.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you reduce a population drastically down to a bunch of slaves and bring them over here, I'm sure there's going to be some level of inbreeding going on. You're going to have a lot of defects, at least more than you would in a mobile society. I don't know.
I think it's in all populations of black people, particularly men, die very young. Now, there's many reasons for that. Most of them are environmental. But they have a proclivity towards heart disease and some other problems.
Well, if you have heart disease,
high blood pressure.
You have people that might have more of a propensity to it. However, if your healthcare system is inadequate and cannot meet the needs of the people, and healthcare as its golden tenet, you're going to have people dying from preventable things like that. So I can see why there might be more people dying.
No, I do actually think I'm no doctor in that sense, but I do actually believe that I've read that black people, as a whole, as an entire race, they tend to be more susceptible to cardiovascular issues and to high blood pressure. So I think that's. See,
well, you can be susceptible.
Shit like that.
You can be susceptible, but it doesn't mean you're killed by it if you have a good healthcare system. I'd be interested to see if you had maybe a European healthcare system and how they handled it. And, like, look at your Afro-Caribbean people.
I don't like the fact that I have to pay for my healthcare, that I have to even have it, because I don't need it. I have my 2 medicines that I buy. They cost me $20. I really don't need healthcare. I don't like the fact that I get fined if I don't have it, because it's very expensive.
Well, I don't like it being fined because I'm not buying a shitty healthcare system into a shitty healthcare system, but I do want universal healthcare. I do want healthcare because at some point I'm going to do something stupid and fall down some stairs or something and break something, and I'm going to need it. And in fact, I did something like that. I did something like that last year. I had a weightlifting accident and I had to go to a hospital because the urgent care wouldn't see me, and thankfully my healthcare paid for it and took care of it. Otherwise, I would have been screwed.
Oh, God, I don't know. Were we friends when I broke my foot?
Perhaps. When was it?
Yeah, I don't remember. It was years ago. I tripped off it was my senior year of undergrad, and I tripped off no, it was my second senior year because I got the 3 degrees. So, it was my second senior year of undergrad, and I tripped off the curb, and I shattered. It's called a Jones fracture. So I shattered at my foot, and I had to be in a cast for 6 months. That's when I was working at. I can't say it. I was working at the place where I used to talk to you on the computer. My first job as an undergrad. So,
okay. Yeah, I remember.
But I'm like, I can't say what it was. But in terms of, like, we are getting off topic a little bit. I don't mind. No, I don't care.
We're just good friends. We're just good friends. It's okay. So, at the end of the movie, okay, so he's trying to, he's about to get cut up. The brother comes in there, the white brother comes in there, and is going to cart him out. And what happens is he's torn up the chair from his visions from the hypnosis or whatever, because they keep putting him to sleep with the hypnosis. And he looks at the cotton. And I knew at that point, and spoiler, he's going to put the cotton in his ears. I don't know how he did it. I didn't get that.
I didn't know what was going on, so you...
I knew he was going to do it. I told Brianna in the theater, I was like, he's going to put the cotton in his ears. I don't know why I do that. Because no one likes to sit there with someone that's going to tell you everything that's about to happen in the movie. Because either they're right and it's annoying, or they're wrong and it's still annoying. So maybe I shouldn't do that. But he gets the cotton in his ears, so he's not actually knocked out. Surprises the white brother, puts him out of commission for a little bit.
Where did he get that ball from that he hit him on the fucking head with?
I didn't remember that part. I don't know.
He has like a yellow marble or stone ball. That's what he clocks him with. And I don't know where he got that.
It must have been laying around or something.
Because he couldn't have gotten out of the restraints. He was restrained. And, and actually, I don't know how he really got the cotton in his ears, because he can only move his hands. I guess. I mean, that makes more sense than where the fuck he found the stone. That didn't make any sense.
I don't know.
And
it was kind of rushed. I felt like they were rushing
whole
things.
end.
Yeah.
The
So he
whole
gets
end
out
was
and
rushed.
he walks out into the hall. The guy's coming. The neurosurgeon dad or whatever's coming to do the surgery. He walks out and there was a deer head in the room. He grabs the deer head, stabs him in the head with it, and he like bleeds out. So dad's dead. He goes upstairs.
Make this clear.
Yeah.
This guy, Chris, we have been led to believe this whole movie is a very normal dude. He has just, presumably,
the
brother
he
hasn't
doesn't
been alive.
Yeah.
Murdered 2 people viciously in cold blood.
Yeah.
Do they deserve
he's
it?
like the
Sure,
Terminator all of a sudden. He's just like, okay, I'm the last girl survivor in horror terms. He's the last survivor or whatever. And he's going to just start whooping ass on these people. He knocks out the brother. He stabs the father in the neck. And I'm like, okay, it's just turning into by the numbers. So
well, it looks like he murdered the brother because there's like a pool of blood underneath his head. Looks like he's dead.
Yeah, so he goes up the stairs and there's the mother rushing at him. I don't remember what happened exactly because it was such a rush.
What did he do to her? Did he shoot her? No.
She stabs him in the hand with like a scissors or something, and it goes through his hand, and he doesn't pay attention to the immense pain that would bring.
Right,
so I'm
that
like,
was
what
so
the hell?
bizarre.
He was like the Terminator.
Hang on, I'm actually gonna look it up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna up it up.
I can tell you what happened. She stabs him through the hand. He pushes it back, and then like it goes into her eye or something, and then she's
Wait, I'm at
dead.
that scene right now.
Yeah.
What did he have? Oh, yeah. It was like a knife or something. Oh, because they were fighting over it, right? And then he stabs her in the eye. Again, a guy who should be in pain, a person who we're led to believe through an entire movie that we've seen of him is a normal dude, just fucking murdering these people. And then it's not like he doesn't have any reaction.
No.
Really? I don't care like how fucked up of a situation you're in. If you're a normal human being and you just murdered someone for the first time, you're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna have a visceral response. He just walks away. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
the brother is not dead and fights him a little bit. But how does he kill the brother?
He stomps on his head. He like gets him on the floor and then he like stomps on his head or something, and you hear like a crack, like a sickening crunch or something.
Yeah, so he absolutely murders this dude.
Yeah.
It's really weird because the brother totally looked dead.
Yeah.
There's some other things. Yeah, we'll
it's
get
the
to.
horror thing, it's where Jason's lying on the ground and you think he's dead. The girl walks off and then he pops back up, or Michael Myers sits up, and he's still alive. It's that thing. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Kicked him. I think he kicked him in the crotch first.
I wonder if. I wanted to watch the movie with like a crowd of people and see how they reacted, because I was thinking at this point in the movie is when people are supposed to be cheering that he's killing these evil people, but I felt the movie was so half-baked and not very well developed in the character department I didn't really care that he was killing them.
I know that people are evil, but this didn't do anything. Or they're quote evil, but this didn't do anything for me because again, if I was him, I would have just run. I would have gotten out instead of trying to fight all these fuckers. It felt like he had to just, what's this? What was this? Where at the end, I'm sorry, I'm watching it. So what was this at the end where the Rose is like on her laptop, like looking up basketball players?
Yeah. It was supposed to be like a funny. It's supposed to be like a funny kind of juxtaposition of the scenes where there's a bunch of violence going on, and then there's her listening to some easy listening '80s song, and she's picking out another victim for her.
Of basketball players, professional.
Yeah, she's going after basketball players.
Okay.
And they're kind of like, isn't this funny how she just sits here looking at black people, blah blah blah.
Well, honestly, the only funny scene was the scene with the cops where Rod goes and tries to explain it. That was the only funny scene in the movie, in my opinion.
Rod was the only funny person, and even then, he didn't make me laugh at all. I just was. No. My brain was reacting to him saying, "Yeah, this is supposed to be the funny part." And I'm like, it's okay, it's passing.
Oh, why did Chris pick up the housemaid? He hit her with his car. Remember?
Oh, because
and then he's like, I know he has his whole childhood flashback.
We didn't cover it, but his mom, the thing when the hypnosis session, it was with the white woman. She said that, why are you so guilty? And he's like, well, because my mom got hit by a car and hit and run thing. She didn't die and I didn't do anything. I freaked out about it somehow. It didn't make a lot of sense because I was like,
it didn't make sense because here's the thing: he didn't know that she had been hit by a car.
She didn't know, so why would he feel guilty? Is it retroactive? But then they came on later in the movie saying that I delayed in telling someone that she wasn't there, and she was lying out in the road dying somewhere, and she could have been saved. Right? And it was kind of confusing. I was like, okay, so did he know she was dead?
That was very half-baked in terms of the whole mother thing. Like, I got what they were going for, but you can't just excuse. It should have been like she was in the house or something if you wanted to play that angle that he knew she was dying.
That's why he went back and got the woman that had been hit. That's the reason, though. It's because he felt like it was his mother.
I guess. I get that, I guess. But the thing is, like, he knew that she was like an old white lady in her head and not a black lady. And
I didn't get that. Like, why would these people get these amazing bodies and then they just live a life of being slaves? Like, I don't understand that either. Like, why are they just? I think maybe it was just a
show that they put on when he was there.
Oh, okay.
So they were just doing that while he was there. Yeah, the whole fucking thing's stupid.
Well, I mean, you have this immortality that you get by living in a black person's body, but you can never go back out in society because someone's going to notice you and be like, "Oh, hey, man, what's up? I'm your friend from high school," and you're going to be like, "I don't know who you are," or your family member is going to see you and say, "Oh, it's the missing person. You've been gone for so long," and yet here I am walking around, okay and fine.
Good thing they all look the same, so that no one can tell. A racist joke.
Yeah. I don't know. It wouldn't seem like an ideal godhood, in my opinion. You're stuck on this, property. You can't go anywhere.
No, it's stupid. That's why the whole fucking. I mean, like, did I think that it was an okay piece of satire? Sure. Oh, speaking of the murder, though, so in the end,
he goes back for the woman, and then she's being controlled by her white brain. She attacks him, so he flashes the photo, the camera interface.
Not on her. Does he on her?
No, you're right.
No, they get in a car accident.
They get in a car accident. She gets KO'd. That's right.
And she dies. She flies through the roof or the window. I mean, and then the gardener. Yeah, he flashes his camera on. And
the gardener shows up. The gardener shows up with his girlfriend.
And she's like, "Grandpa," and then he just gets flashed and shoots her in the stomach and himself in the head.
Yeah, because
really.
Yeah, he gets flashed with the camera, and that puts the black person back in control of the black body. Grandpa's no longer in control, so he turns around and shoots her. She's got a gut shot. And now, I don't get at that point how she's able to talk. If you get shot in the gut, you're not able to say anything.
Well, this is an interesting bit, though, too. Like, what the fuck was up with this, like, we're going to keep part of your brain stem so your personality's still in there deep? Like, this whole brain surgery thing, you're right, it's very silly. Because that doesn't make any sense.
It makes too many loose ends. It's way too complicated to explain easily, and it has so many questions that come up from it that I would have told a writer, if I had rewritten the script, I'd been like, dude, we're changing the brain thing. It's got to be something different. And I don't know if you could have a movie
I'm willing
at that point.
to suspension of disbelief, particularly in horror. And it didn't really bother me, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of movies have to be good in ways other than the story.
That, though.
A lot of movies have to be better than
plot devices.
Movies have to be better than their story is. You can have a shitty story, but as long as your characters are funny, as long as your visuals are good, as long as these things are there, you can have people look over bad stuff. They can look beyond it and enjoy the movie. And this movie didn't have that. I thought the visuals were awful because the whole movie is just drab. If you watch it, it's like 30 different shades of brown.
I thought a lot of the cinematography. Now, the colors, yes, agree 100%. The palette is very subdued and very dark.
Yeah.
Not because it's about black people, but because it's gray and drab. However, it was really excellent.
Yeah, it was fine. Like in the hypnosis scenes, it looks fine there and everything. It's fine, but the rest of the movie,
some of the framing, the shots reminds me of very classic horror. And I really appreciate stuff like that. I think this is my problem with Jordan Peele. I think he's a new director. Well, he is. He's a new director. This is his first attempt.
He's drawing on other people's stuff too much and not his own. Yeah.
He's drawing, like I said, starting in the very beginning at this conversation where I said the strings. Yeah. It very much reminds me of older horror. I think a lot of this reminds me of it's very reminiscent of many other things.
Yeah, he doesn't have his own voice yet.
Yeah. I think he's capable, though. I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was adequate, I think is the good.
It wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't like I would watch this and say, this person has no business making movies. I just don't think it was as great
I'd watch it
as
again.
all the praise. Now,
I'd watch it again, actually.
My other problems with it is that the characters are just not there. They're two-dimensional.
There are no characters, yeah.
There's nothing to them.
So
there's
really to Chris.
Yeah, it's just nothing to it. Chris is barely a character himself. He's basically he made a mistake as a kid, and now he's awkward while dating a white woman, and that's it. There's nothing else to him. The evil parents, there's nothing to them. They're mentioned
no character.
Times. They don't have any real.
Has no personality, even though she should be the leading lady. She has no personality.
Yeah, they're basically all they're typecast, they're stereotypes, and I didn't appreciate that. And that's why my problem with this movie is the premise is not carried by the rest of the movie, and that's why it's just not a good movie in my opinion, because there should be other things in your movie. You should have a good soundtrack, you should have interesting visuals, you should have written characters. Yeah, it was alright. The soundtrack was okay. They pulled enough songs in that it was okay, but it wasn't very memorable.
It wasn't anything to write home about. No, it wasn't.
I can remember,
it wasn't astounding. Like my overall, if I was gonna, and I'm really a little bit confused because a lot of movie review channels on YouTube, and the two of them that I watch the most, Your Movie Sucks, and they both gave pretty glowing reviews of this film.
Whatever.
Now I think they're above a lot of this, drawn into the racial shit, but maybe they're not. I don't know. I
don't see how someone can compliment it. I don't see how anyone can praise this movie. To me, it's forgettable. I mean, it's like something I would have caught on TV and cable back in the day, and would have seen once and never thought about again. Well, I don't know what else you could say about it.
1 out of 10.
What would I rate it? I mean, it's like a 4. It's like a 4.
That's lower than me. I think it's more competent than a 4.
I mean, it's okay.
It's not anything. It's not fantastic.
Now
the satire.
Okay. Let's get to the end of the movie.
But it's not carried out well. Right. Well, we pretty much did.
Well, I mean,
everyone's dead.
He shoots the girl. The girl's got a gut shot. He tries to choke her, and then he can't, so he just lets her die. I guess he thinks it's a better fate for her or something. Yeah, they didn't really develop their relationship.
Her whole family. He just murdered her whole family and didn't give a shit. Like, I know they're terrible, but he didn't have any emotions. He didn't have any response to
he was
violently full of gore, destroying her family.
Yeah.
And now he can't choke her. I was actually confused by that scene. I was like, why her off?
I don't know either.
Hungry monster at this point.
There might be some point to it, but who knows? I mean, it's not that great of a movie, so I'm not going to try and dig into it. But what happens next is
I think there's some shit to dig into, but yeah.
The police.
But then what happens at the end?
Well, the police car shows up. You see these police lights, and I was thinking at that point, oh, I see what he's going to do. It's going to be a Night of the Living Dead. He's going to be over this white girl, and he's going to be choking her out, and then the cop's going to be like, it's the same cop from before, and he's going to be like, I knew it. You did something, and maybe this is a deleted scene or something, but he ended up like shooting Chris. I thought that was going to happen. It's not. Instead, it turns out to be
That's great. Actually, I believe Red Letter Media made that about like expecting the Night of the Living Dead, which, by the way, is one of my favorite movies of all time, and was filmed like 40 miles from where I live. So, no, I gave away my location. But it was well, no, it's more than that. I think it's like 60 miles, but it's a pretty close distance. I know exactly where it is, though. I've been to that cemetery, and it's great. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be, that ending, and I didn't know if I was going to like that or not like it. I was like, okay, whatever. But instead,
I might have liked that more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It would have been more impactful than what happened, because all that happens is Rod says, "Oh, I knew you were going to get abducted and all this shit, and I couldn't call you, man. So I came out here in my TSA police car," which I'm like, is that a thing? Do TSA agents have police cars? I don't think TSA agents are trusted with Swiss Army knives. I don't think they're going to be allowed to have a car.
I get it. But what I did like about that is that that whole, like, the cops come. What I was expecting is the cops come, he puts up his hands and they shoot him because fucking Ferguson or whatever. And I was like, oh god, I was anticipating that. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't happen, and it was his friend. And I was like, Jordan Peele thought that all of us would think that was the ending because this racial shit.
That's what I got too.
He subverted it. I think good. Again, I think he's a newbie. I think he's a novice. He doesn't have his own sort of definitive first film. It wasn't bad. Like you can do far worse. Was it a great horror film? No. It was fire, and that's about where I would put it.
I want to give out some better movies that I think that do a better job of what they're trying to do.
I have a discussion that I want to have at the end. But
sure, I'm gonna. Before that, I always when I crap on a movie, I always try and give people movies I think are better, so they can at least try and get something better. I'm not just leaving them with this is a shitty movie. I want them to go out and see something that I think is better, and they can also judge if I'm just crazy because they might see the movies I liked and said, "Well, that sucks compared to Get Out, so you're full of crap." But here's the movies I think. Okay, the first one is Fight for Your Life. It was made in 1977. It's blaxploitation. I've watched quite a few blaxploitation movies. It's about this white group of prisoners that escape from a prison or something. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they invade a black home, and it's a black minister's home, and he tries to abide with them and make peace with them, and they just do all these awful things. They rape his daughter, they shoot his mother, all these horrible things, and it's a pretty wild movie, and it ends up with him fighting them. This old black minister, he fights them to the death, and it's called Fight for Your Life. Wow. What's that?
Is he a fat black?
No, he's slender. He's not fat at all.
I would have loved if it was like Al Sharpton, just wailing on these motherfuckers. I would pay fucking top dollar for that.
But it's an exploitation movie. It's not highbrow in any sense, but it's a good movie for this kind of thing because it reminded me of the black people fighting back against the white people. That's why I thought of that movie when I saw that. And then the next movie that I wanted to suggest was The People Under the Stairs, which was...
I've heard of that.
It's a Wes Craven movie, you know, you may have heard of him.
No, I've heard have I heard of Wes Craven? Are you fucking joking? God damn it.
Yeah, a little bit. He wrote it, and he directed it, and it's about these two, like, criminal black guys in the hood, and they had this little kid with them that goes along with them to break into this, like, rich white person's house, and they find something very dark and alien and kind of inhuman barbarity going on there in the house, and it's very entertaining. They were looking for treasure. There's always rumors of treasure in the house, and instead they find something that's kind of torturous and dark. So I suggest that too. It's got a racial thing to it. Well, it's got when they get in the house, there's these two, like, brother and sister in there, and they turn out to be like these incestuous, like, bondage maniacs. It's just really a crazy movie, but it reminded me. It reminded me of this movie a lot, and I'd recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's The People Under the Stairs.
I'll check it out. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've heard it actually probably recommended to me before.
Just as a general horror movie, it's something you should see because it's worth seeing. It's Wes Craven. You know, he hasn't always made great movies, but this one was pretty decent.
I mean, like, a lot of my problem with horror is that that's not true. I was gonna make a statement, but that it was wrong, and that was that, you know, I haven't seen a lot of older horror, but how old is that? That's Wes Craven. That's got to be like what, 1991? Yeah. Okay. Oh wow, it was really close. In the classics of the classics. What?
It's the right century.
1990. I was 1 year off, just by a guess. And I've seen a lot of, like, but my knowledge of older horror film, at least in terms of Western horror films, is really lacking.
That's my bread and butter. So
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, because for me, the thing I don't like, I don't know. I'm not into slashers. I'm into supernatural horror. So Japanese horror has always appealed to me more than even old, generally always supernatural. I like that shit better. It's just my...
Yeah, there hasn't really been too many Japanese slashers that aren't supernatural. I can think of one with, like, a mutant in it, and I'll tell you about it later, but that's the only one I can think of. So you're right on that. They're mostly all Shinto, Buddhist, supernatural.
I think I've actually only ever seen one Chinese slasher film. You know, I'm so into Asian horror, and I don't like any from East Asia.
The only one I can think of that's aside from the one I mentioned that's Japanese is Evil Dead Trap. That's not really. Is that supernatural or is it? I thought it was more like a mute. I don't know.
I think of one I watched not too long ago that was like but it was super. So never mind. I guess that tends to be my jam. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, that's the two movies I want to recommend. I don't really have
okay.
anything else to say. I mean, it's Get Out. You know, I was kind of being an asshole during the movie. I was all like, I can't wait to get out of here because I didn't really enjoy it. I'm sure plenty of people made that joke, but I don't know. I just didn't enjoy the movie in a cinematic sense. I don't give. Go ahead.
Rotten Tomatoes. No one's making that kind of joke on Rotten Tomatoes where it's 99% approved.
Oh, if you go read the user reviews, like the site users, they're giving that joke. But I mean, I don't know. Some person said you should stay in, not get out and see this movie. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, yeah, I agree. But I just don't like the movie on a nuts and bolts cinematic level. I thought it just had too many flaws to be worth all this praise. And I think the message that it had really wasn't much of a message, and it was too muddled, and the confusing elements of the story to be evident. And I don't think it's going to be remembered in 2 months, like I said.
No, it probably won't. Well, maybe. Look, the message that it has, if I'm correct, mocking or making a sort of joke or whatever out of this idea of these white liberals who worship blackness just for anything about the person. I think that's a good point that needs to be made, because when I saw this, what I was expecting is, I thought, oh, it's just going to be, look at how evil white people are. Yeah. That's not what it was.
No.
Now, here's my big point that I want to ask you about, and this is sort of the major point of my video that I didn't make, was I think we both agree was very average to below average.
Yeah.
Could we agree it was a competent enough horror film? It wasn't exceptional. It was competent enough. If it is a satire, which I believe 100% it is, and knowing Jordan Peele, as we both know, this is a satire. I think we can agree.
Mm-hmm.
That now, do you agree with me? I have to ask this question: that this is making fun of those white liberals who are just like, oh, Beyonce should have gotten the Grammy instead of the white people because and blacks are so amazing. This felling of blackness. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, there is some degree of that because they are like kind of worshipping and doting on Chris and the party scene and stuff like that, and they're trying to act like they're conscientious to the black plight because that Asian guy asked, like, do you think the African American experience is an advantage or a disadvantage? And it's a question that's asked brazenly out in front to the audience and to Chris, so it is out there. I do think it is a satire in that sense.
Want to put their brains in their bodies. Again, it's the superficial worthness.
Yeah.
I get that. Now, two things. Well, there's the irony. And the irony is this. If Jordan Peele set out to make a movie about how rich white liberals will praise anything black by virtue of it being black, interesting that this movie has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, even though it's not that great.
Yeah, I wonder if he saw that coming. He said, if I make this movie, they're going to love it. Whereas if maybe, say, a white guy who made a movie about, a white guy going to meet a black family, and the black family wanted to, get their brain inside of his white body to live a successful life doing things with their white privilege, would that have been quite the popular movie? I don't think so.
Actually, if that was the plot where it's like, I'm going to these white bodies and steal them so we can get their...
I'd like to watch that movie. It would be more entertaining, I think. It'd be a more entertaining movie, just in a tongue-in-cheek way. But I wonder if it was the same exact quality. If it was the same exact quality, if it was somebody who wasn't controversial, who was biracial like Peele is, if they made the same exact movie but changed it around like that, I think people would freaking hate it. I think they would burn down the studio that made it. I don't think that they would be... There would be a Berkeley riot over it.
Or not. And so, speaking of that, hang on one sec. It would have been an absolute fucking nightmare, and it would have made people irate. Mm-hmm. It would have caused all kinds of problems. But when I say about what you were talking about how no one would go see it, there was a film that was made in 2016 called The Red Pill. The Pill was a feminist as to be red-pilled?
Yeah, I know about red pilling. I've read about that.
Okay. So, movie maker, documentarian, who wanted to go investigate what she thought was a misogynistic hate group called the Men's Rights Activists.
Yeah.
And she found legitimate complaints, and that there were real reasons for something called men's rights, and for things like men going their own way, MGTOW. And so she made a movie about it. The movie was banned from theaters all over the world.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Feminist.
Yeah.
A feminist said that men have issues too. And that was so absurd to them, to these theaters. People protested it. They didn't want it anywhere near any public theaters. I think it was banned in the entire country of Australia. I'm not really up on the information. But yeah, they don't care. Because there's a narrative. People had a chance here to make a message about this white liberalism sycophancy.
Yeah, they should have come out in the middle, and they should have said that both things are bad. And that's where I'm kind of at. I want to be in the middle, trying to just take care of real things that are happening, and like I said, my backyard, that I can actually influence, instead of just playing into what someone else wants me to be mad about, like someone's gender or their race or some stuff like that. But I haven't even heard that movie, so there you go. The Thought Police removed it, so I never even heard about it. I might want to watch it. It sounds entertaining.
If you can find a copy, which is going to be basically impossible. Even I haven't been able to find it, but I haven't looked in a couple months. Yeah. If you can find it, please send it to me. Anyway, because I'd like to get your money because of this stuff that's happened. But anyway, I have a question for you and a question for my audience and for everybody, and that's this. Get Out is a satire, which I believe it is completely. I believe it's a satire of liberals who worship blackness, white liberals who worship blackness. So if it is that, people are viewing it as some sort of black power movie that says all whites as evil, which is what's happening on Tumblr and stuff. If you look at the reviews of this movie, is that, this is what we deal with every day. We're constantly getting our brains cut out because whites are so fucking awful. Or whether or not it was intended to be satire. If satire is not understood, and there's two reasons not understood. One, it's too smart. Two, it's poorly handled. I think this one was poorly handled. And the problem is that when satire is poorly handled, that means that it can be misinterpreted. Title for the video I was going to make about this, it's called Is Get Out Race Baiting Nonsense? I don't think it is intentionally. However, race baiting is what it does maybe unintentionally by the failure of it not being an excellent film or an excellent satire. For example, everyone understands Brazil.
Yeah.
Like, everyone gets that.
Yeah.
There's no confusion. Is this an understandable satire where people might not just confuse it for being about how whites are evil and will try to cut your brain out because of whatever?
Yeah, I think it does fail, and I think it's the latter. But you know, it's the internet. People are going to take even the greatest things out there and just completely misunderstand them and destroy them, and they're going to do anything. You know, they're going to say anything because it's really, in my opinion, the SJW thing and all that, it's not really about trying to fix a problem. It's about someone wanting attention and taking up a cause and yelling about it until they get that attention.
No, it's absolutely not about any cause. Because these people who obsess and who basically form their lives around their identities, they've never faced any fucking discrimination. Chips, they live off mommy and daddy's money. Do you think they fucking give a shit about anything? No.
Right.
And so, yeah, like, if this film had actually been a successful satire, I would say, big thumbs up. But...
Yeah. I think...
Not in terms of being a film. In terms of being a satire of something that doesn't get pointed out enough.
Okay.
That, you know, because you see this shit all the time on Twitter and on Facebook and all these virtue signaling whites who are like, look at how virtuous I am, look at how amazing I am because I love black people, I love them so much, I love black people. And if that's what it was, just a satire of that, as that, even if it's not a great film, I would still value it as a important film.
Yeah. I
level.
Is
that what we have?
Well, I mean, your question makes me wonder, like, what would a movie that is successful like that look? Is there? Are you saying there's going to be a movie that one day may be so great, if theoretically, that could do that?
Brazil.
I just don't. Yeah, but I don't know.
Opinion, at least example, because it was a satire of a lot of things, of this totalitarianism, of extreme sort of racism, bureaucracy, and oh my god, the bureaucracy scenes, they're hilarious, and stuff like that. Satire that has something to say about society, that is clear and evident.
I just don't know if you could ever. Yeah, it's a satire, and I think it kind of fails at that. But I don't hold it against the movie for failing at that, because I don't honestly know off the top of my head what would reach people that are angry at everything, because being angry at anything in their world equates to them getting attention and getting even money in some cases and surviving. And it's like the world we live in is kind of broken. I
don't actually even care about how social justice warriors and how they perceive this film. What I mean is, how is the average non-fucking psychopathic, sociopathic, crazy person view? And do they see this as a straight-faced film at face value, or is it a satire that might tell them something about us as a culture worshiping people on the over the color of their skin?
I don't think it's going to reach the normal person, but then I don't know what normal is. I feel like everybody's on the internet. Everybody's a fucking pod person right now, and even me, and we're all just kind of very aware.
Of pod people.
We're very aware of each other and what we think, and we know everything everyone's doing because we're showing it off, and it's just weird. I don't know. It's just a big question.
Yeah, that's my question. That was the whole point behind this video, is that, well, behind my original intention. It's much nicer to have you here to talk about it with, because otherwise I'll just ramble. And my point is that, like, satire, if it's not effective satire, then it doesn't mean anything, and people won't be able to get the message. The message, as you sort of said, that wouldn't matter either, because they're so far gone. They're so within their own little universe, they're not going to be able to understand this shit.
Right. I feel like nowadays you have to come out and make everything understandable in 140 characters or less, or nobody's going to give a shit, because they're all too busy clicking on the next thing and going to the next thing and doing the next thing. So
reduced attention span is a area of research based on the internet, and the fact that we have so many more sources now. We're constantly being pulled between source and source. But like I said, they're going to always say, the people who are going to go yes at this film because blacks deal with this. I've got a quote. Let's read it. Hang on. I've got some quotes from some users on Rotten Tomatoes. Shoot. Okay, so we have a quote from Giorgio Y, whatever his last name is. Starts with Y, as in, why would you post this? With a storyline to the crazy plot twists. This is a 5-star review. A critic gave this movie its first negative rating because of the racial topics that it touched upon. That critic, as a black male and has dated white women and many other races, we basis, accept it, sir, and don't fault the movie for shedding some light on this. Any critic that gives this movie a negative rating should be drug tested. That's nice.
Okay, that's just that's ad hominem.
That's how
I don't
they feel.
There's nothing there to work with. There's no real response to that. You're just like, okay, so you think they're drug users? All right, Well,
that's how they feel. Like, here's another one. This is from John L. Jordan Peele's Get Out is a thriller that illustrates what so many others seem to forget. The scariest things are real. Touching on biopolitics, systemic racism, and legitimacy and modern slavery. Excuse me, where are you talking about? Saudi Arabia? Anyway, the film fits as a worthy commentary on our modern Trump America and begs for analysis within academic settings as well as in the American home. Bring the kids if they can handle horror, and the often said 4-letter word racism is alive and well, and Get Out illustrates the fear so many people live with on the daily.
Okay, whatever.
What the fuck though? Like what is wrong with these people? Right?
They have a message, and they want to get it out there, and they're willing to say anything and praise anything for it, and it's kind of an empty existence. I wouldn't want to live like that. I look at things on their merits, not on how they conform to my worldview. So I don't know what to tell someone like that. Sorry. Good luck with that. That's just sad.
I mean, there's lots of negative user reviews as well, but I will say this because I scoured them. I looked through all of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, and I found that basically they were either 5-star or 1/2 star.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I saw that too, for the majority.
They were like, I won't see this. I won't see this because it's race baiting, because it's bullshit. Now, I think that's fucked. I think you should at least watch it if you're going to leave a fucking review.
Yeah.
Have come to the conclusion that the movie is mediocre, right? After having both seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are just like, the fucking like all these people leaving really positive reviews have seen it either. Because they're just virtue signaling. They're just fucking. It's great because black people.
Well, it's like everything on the internet. It's like everything on the internet. When people are showing what they do on the internet, it's an idealized version of themselves. It's an idealized version of how their day went. It's an idealized version of the food they eat. They take pictures on Instagram of the latest, fine dish they ate. They only do that like once a month, They post about what they did volunteering for someone when, they don't post every other day where they're at home, watching Netflix in their underwear and eating bad food. It's all idealized. So really, when these people post about things, it's not really who they are. It's just some amalgamation of what they want you to see them as. So I think a lot of the positive reviews, it's not even about having actually done something. It's just about the appearance of having done something. I saw this movie, and it's
presentation in terms of how you present your face, how you want to be seen by others, and you always want to have your best face forward. Theory about management of face and other things like that, but I get that. There's also a lot of communication theories, additional communication theories about how we interact online, like the hyperpersonal model, propinquity theory. There's a lot of shit that dictates how we act online, but these people, these partisans.
Yeah, partisans. That's a good word for them.
Well, they are. For them, it's all about virtue signaling. If you don't know that word, it's all about showing you how good I am because I looked at this thing or I wrote about this thing. They don't care. None of them care about reviewing this. And I honestly feel a little sad because and Red Letter Media both gave this film like a total great big thumbs up. And you and I both agree that it's really mediocre. But that's okay. It's okay for films to be mediocre. I just feel that it's a little bit disconcerting to me that that you can't even say shit like that about a quote black movie because it's mainstream. Like if it was Medea Goes to Scary Place.
I'm interested in seeing how the reaction to this is because you've got over 1,000 subscribers. You've got a lot more eyes on you than I naturally have. So I want to see what people think, and maybe I'll get a positive reaction from this, or maybe I'll get a bunch of negative reactions. But I welcome all of it. Go ahead.
From my channel, you won't get negative. No. Anyway, so we kind of talked about everything I think that we can talk about as far as Get Out goes. This is going to be a very long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Aiden Paladin. And here's my friend. This is
Brean from Toy, or that's on YouTube, whichever you prefer. And thank you for listening. And I want to hear what you guys had to think about or say about Get Out, but just make it honest. Don't say it as part of a narrative or anything. Just give us your honest thoughts on what you thought of the movie as a nuts and bolts piece of cinema. Because I'm more interested in what a movie is and not really what it should be in some places.
We'll see you later.